cette session qui va porter sur, qui est intitulée « Au-delà de la protection forte », l'importance des zones tampons qui sont bien mises en œuvre et bien contrôlées dans les stratégies de zonage et de réglementation liées aux aires marines protégées. Voilà. Donc, comme je l'ai bien dit, on va assurer avec Souha la coordination et la modération. Notre ami et collègue Pep Amangual, donc, de l'organisme autonome des parcs nationaux d'Espagne, a eu l'amabilité d'accepter d'être rapporteur à cette session. Et puis, comme je l'ai bien dit, notre ami Rida Neveu va assurer l'assistance technique pour cette session. Voilà. Juste avant d'attaquer la partie relative aux recommandations, donc une mise en scène et une mise en contexte de la session pour rappeler un peu ce qui a été introduit ce matin, rappeler où sommes-nous en Méditerranée en termes de système d'air marine protégé, hein, où nous avons 1089 AMP qui couvrent une superficie de l'ordre de 8,3%. Il y a eu des efforts, des progrès ces dernières années, mais avec tout de même, pour la région, un long chemin qui reste à faire en termes de gestion effective des aires marines protégées, l'application des lois et puis le financement relatif aux mesures donc, de gestion dans ces aires marines protégées. Certains pays donc, ont même atteint l'objectif d'Aichi de 10%, certains l'ont même dépassé, mais certains d'autres ont beaucoup de travail à faire, notamment dans la partie sud et est de la Méditerranée, comme on l'avait présenté ce matin à la session plénière. Donc, il y a une grande disparité, un grand déséquilibre entre la partie nord et surtout la partie maritime européenne et le reste de la Méditerranée. Et s'il est clair maintenant que si la région vraiment veut progresser pour atteindre l'objectif de 2030 qui est de 30% de protection, et en particulier si on veut atteindre les 10% de protection forte, donc il y a un besoin clair que les pays méditerranéens doivent étendre, donc créer de nouvelles aires marines protégées, étendre les AMP qui existent déjà, y compris les zones tampons et les zones de développement durable, et puis augmenter le nombre, la couverture et surtout l'effectivité et l'efficacité des zones avec une forte protection. Voilà. Ce qu'on est en train de faire aujourd'hui, ces sessions de discussion vont servir pour donc, alimenter la feuille de route après 2020 des aires marines protégées. Et donc, en particulier pour cette session, en relation avec l'objectif stratégique numéro 2, qui consiste à renforcer la législation nationale et assurer donc l'application effective de mécanismes effectifs pour produire de meilleurs résultats pour les aires marines protégées. Et on va focaliser donc sur les deux recommandations principales, la recommandation 2.1 et 2.6. La 2.1 consiste donc à augmenter le nombre et la couverture des AMP avec protection forte, et en l'occurrence les zones de non-prélèvement, les zones de non-accès et les zones à protection intégrale, afin de contribuer à au rétablissement des écosystèmes marins et puis sur la base des données scientifiques et de l'engagement des communautés. Et puis la deuxième recommandation consiste à encourager et promouvoir donc l'implication de la société civile dans l'observation, la vigilance et puis l'information et le suivi des violations et des infractions, donc, et travailler de près avec les autorités nationales afin de les endiguer. Voilà, donc comme je l'ai bien annoncé, donc, notre rapporteur va essayer de capter donc, les principales recommandations donc, émanant des échanges qui ont eu lieu, et on va focaliser sur les actions donc, nécessaires pour réaliser donc, les recommandations de la feuille de route. les suggestions relatives aux indicateurs de suivi et puis les partenariats nécessaires pour donc la mise en œuvre de cette feuille de route et de ces recommandations toutes particulières. Donc tout cela va être repris par la suite dans les sessions de travail sur la feuille de route qui vont se tenir à la fin de chaque jour, aujourd'hui et demain, donc pour vous présenter, si tout va bien, donc au dernier jour du forum, donc on va vous présenter donc la version finalisée donc de cette feuille de route. Voilà. Pour donc mener une bonne discussion et assurer un bon échange, on va donc avoir 3 études de cas en appui pour notre session. La première étude de cas sera présentée par notre collègue et ami Domenico SGAMBATI de l'aire marine protégée de Punta Campanella d'Italie. Et elle va porter sur les actions intégrées des zones B dans les MP méditerranéennes. La deuxième étude de cas sera présentée par notre collègue Pietro VUOLO de la délégation Marevivo d'Italie et elle va porter sur les bénéfices d'une collaboration active avec les associations environnementales. Et puis, on va finir avec une troisième étude de cas qui va être présentée par notre ami et collègue Joachim CLAUDET sur les niveaux de protection en Méditerranée. Voilà, donc c'est un peu donc le cadre général de cette session. Comme donc il est prévu, donc on va passer tout de suite aux présentations et puis on va ouvrir le débat pour les échanges concernant les recommandations. Et pour cela, voilà, donc on va appeler notre ami Domenico SGAMBATI pour faire la présentation de la première étude de cas. Oui, en 10 minutes, pas 2.
I'll try my best.
10 minutes. Okay, please. Yes.
Okay, pleased to meet you. I'm honored to be here. I have participated to the morning session and it's a pleasure for me. I'm Domenico SGAMBATI from Punta Campanella Marine Protected Area. It's a pleasure for me to present our contribution that is about integrated actions for B zones in the MPAs. Our MPA is located in the western basin of the Mediterranean Sea. In the Tyrrhenian Sea, we are close to the Gulf of Naples and Salerno. And this peninsula, it's a place with a lot of people living in the cities of Naples and Salerno. So densely populated areas with deep culture linked to the sea. We have dozens of marine villages and people that are like living everyday life, exploiting marine resources since a long time ago. It's a very touristic spot as well. It's between Napoli, Pompeii, Vesuvius, Amalfi Coast, islands of Ischia and Capri. And of course, all these people are bringing impacts, not only the one on global scales, but also local impacts. That's why in the last 20 years, we have seen the institution of 4 marine protected areas in the Gulf of Naples, plus 1 that is the island of Capri that is going to be instituted in the next future. This is our marine protected area, Punta Campanella. This is Punta Campanella, is dividing the Gulf of Naples from the Gulf of Salerno. It was established in 1997 by the Ministry of Environment. It's managed by a consortium of municipalities, the 6 municipalities that have their territories belonging to the protected area. It's about 30 kilometers of coast and 1,500 hectares of marine surface, and it's divided into 3 different zones of protection. We have the A zone, the red one, that is a place where you cannot enter, just with few authorized diving centers and for scientific research. Then we have the B zones that are pretty large, 45% almost of the territory. It's a place where nature and humans try to combine, try to have a good relationship. So B zones are open to the public, and we have to follow the rules of making marine protected areas an affair of everybody, inviting people to enjoy nature here, there. And then we have the partial reserve, the green zones, where there are many harbors, beaches, and mass tourism, and we have to deal with it. It's also, our protected area is a SPAMI. It's a special marine protected area of Mediterranean interest since 2009. And our natural resources are shallow and deep coralligenous communities, as we are mainly in hard substrate areas with rocky cliffs. And the base, we can find Posidonia meadows. We are jumping into the Tyrrhenian Sea, so we also enjoy pelagic open water ecosystems. So coastal and open water ecosystems are combining. And there's a strong local fishing culture, as I told you before. And this is bringing, of course, threats. In addition to the global ones, we have illegal fishing that is both recreational, like sport fishing, but also professional fishing that is sometimes illegal, like bottom trawlers coming from Salerno. There is mass tourism. Sometimes we have highway, it's a highway of boats, of private boats or touristy boats that are moving from Capri to Amalfi. Pollution and marine litter that is following, of course, the presence of human. What I want to present you are two actions done in the B zones of the park. I told you they are very important areas, since the red zone is a place where you cannot enter. So it's a natural sanctuary. It's a bank of biodiversity. Green zones are full of people because it's a touristic area. In the B zones, we try to put together nature and people in a way that is sustainable for biodiversity. One project is located in Yeranto Bay. It's this bay that is at the end of the peninsula. It's spectacular environment. Initial conditions there were hundreds of boats anchored every day, a restaurant on the beach, and daily fishing activities made by the restaurant itself. In the first 10 years, the park and Coast Guard made a lot of efforts to start to reduce the impacts, but it's very hard to deal with hundreds of boats. We started to do it with the park and Coast Guard, and then we started a special project that is the topic of today. It's called a Baia in fondo al sentiero. That means the bay at the end of the path, since Yeranto is a place that you can join just by walking. It's a natural path that is passing through these mountains. It's 45 minutes, and access by boat is limited since it is B zone. In this project, we have a partnership between our marine protected area, the Italian Foundation for the Environment, that is FAI, and an association of guides and marine biologists that spread the word of outdoor activities in a wonderful area. Plus, we have a structured volunteering project that is funded by Erasmus Plus. It's called Project Mare, that means Marine Adventures Respecting the Environment, and is hosting dozens of volunteers coming from every country to help for conservation. And this is the soul and the arms of the activities in the park. What do we do? Daily summer activities. It's 100 days of activities since 2011, plus year-long biodiversity monitoring. And what I want to suggest to you with this contribution is this circular model that is helping us to work in a proper way with 3 macro actions. First of all, monitoring. That means understanding the conditions of the site that you want to protect. Understanding how many boats are entering, how many people are fishing, if it's during the night, during the day, if there are key species, if biodiversity is decreasing or Posidonia meadows are impacted by anchoring. So first of all, understanding your place. Then you can follow up with the conservation. Once you know things, once you know what happens in your place, you can actually do actions, address actions for to reduce these impacts. And then this tool that is communication. Is not possible to do activities in a park if it's full of people and you are not able to have a dialogue with them. So finally, outcomes from this project are these ones. We finally had the possibility to apply a conservation plan to reduce human impacts on species and habitats, to suggest alternatives to the restrictions of the park. So new activities allowed, new activities to explore nature, to enjoy, to understand why the place is protected. Even a well-managed area of the park is just available for visitors. So people are coming and enjoying the blue oasis, a place that is without pollution, plus businesses, so operators that are shifting from unsustainable activity to something that is allowed by the park. And finally, also, we are able to finance this project that makes it sustainable even from another point of view. That is, I should start. It's a video here. The second action that I want to present to you today, still in a B zone of the Punta Campanella Marine Protected Area, is located in another area of the park. And the target group in this case, so if in Yeranto, the target group is for excursionists, people that want to have a deep meeting with nature, here the goal is to involve boaters. Okay, so here we are in a very crowded bay, and in this region of the bay, we have instituted an eco-friendly buoy field that is made of 35 manta ray buoys, special buoys that are not impacting on Posidonia. This year, we are going to put 10 more buoys, and the goal is the same. 100 days during summer to be present on the site, to talk with boaters and to inform them about why we do this stuff, why we care about Posidonia meadows, and why anchoring is forbidden and mooring buoys are helping out. Outcomes from this project are the same from of Yeranto. Conservation plan applied in one side of the park. Visitors that are just enjoying the park with different suggestions coming from us. Self-financing project, we get some fees from the boaters that come and take the buoy for all the day long. And finally, a good place for economic activities that are very important, also not only in the green zones of the park, but also in the yellow zones of the park. It's okay, let's just go on. Because now it's stuck. It's not moving anymore. Go on. Okay, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. It's just stopped. It doesn't go on. Okay. Okay. If you still can go on because this one is not working. Okay, so lessons learned. The MPA operators must be present in protected areas to ensure that the rules are respected, and MPAs have to be open to general public and must be controlled so that authorized business operators are able to conduct their activities in a well-organized environment, something that is pretty hard if things are not going like they should. Following recommendations to recommendation 2.1 and 2.6, I just want to suggest to you again this 3D model following these steps, like identifying one or more specially protected site in the marine protected area, starting with monitoring to collect information. If there are data already available, it's better. And then start with a conservation plan and a communication plan to involve every kind of target group in understanding nature, in understanding that kind of nature. And following then the circular flow, so repeat step 2, 3, and 4 every year to understand how things are going. I selected few indicators because time is over, I know. Just to show you, we have 10 years of data, but now I just wanted to show you that in this diagram, we have the number of illegal activities that are decreasing, the red line, the red curve, that is like different just for the 2020. We know that the year of pandemic was different everywhere, and the number of visitors and authorized activities are increasing. And we hope that soon there will be just a change in the behavior. We will have more authorized activities than illegal. And these activities, more important is that the assessment of biodiversity in Yeranto Bay gave us the idea of the presence of more than 280 species belonging to different taxonomic groups. It means that this kind of activities, so ecotourism, opening the B zones to visitors, doesn't affect species and habitats. And this is very important. Also, Posidonia meadows are recovering due to the reduced damage from anchoring, since we are stopping anchoring. And this is a very interesting activity that we conduct in kayak, thanks to our volunteers that are very important for our project. So we are going to export this model in other B zones of the park, but the suggestion and the contribution for the forum is to try the same and maybe come back to us with feedbacks and suggestions to implement it in with your experiences. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed. And if you have any question, I'm available for you.
Yes, maybe we let the question for later because we have now 3 speakers. Yes, thank you. We let the discussion for later. Okay, so I will invite our next speaker. Yes, Pietro VUOLO from Marevivo Salerno in Italy to present a case study, the contribution of an environmental association in MPAs. Please, Pietro.
Good morning. Buongiorno a tutti. Before start, I ask to show a video. Okay. Just 2 minutes.
When I was born, the swimming mask, snorkel, and fins had just been invented. Thanks to these inventions, I was able to discover that underneath the sea's surface existed a second paradise, a world practically untouched, a world full of animals of every type, shape, and color, animals everywhere. But in just a few years, something has changed. This paradise is disappearing. Man is a constant threat to our seas and oceans. We at Marevivo fight to save them and prevent their disappearance. We started this adventure more than 30 years ago. Before anyone else, we were interested in the problems arising with the sea, becoming an organization dedicated to protecting and helping the sea across the entire Italian coast. All of this thanks to the support of so many people that share our dream with small daily gestures. We organize educational campaigns to teach our future generations not to repeat our mistakes. And every day, we throw ourselves into projects that push people to make their small contribution, because we have no more time. We call on the support of academics and technicians to better understand the issues our sea is facing, including climate change. Their studies have become certainties that we have brought before institutions and around the world to help transform our demands into laws. Day after day, we grow, thanks to volunteers, researchers, institutions, and companies. All of them have contributed to making Marevivo a reality. And thanks to your support, we can do much more. Join us. We don't have another planet. We have to defend this one. For us, for our present, and for a better future.
Okay, thank you. This was a video showing what we do as Marevivo. My name is Pietro VUOLO, and I'm the representative of Marevivo Onlus Association. As you said, Marevivo is an association that for over 40 years deals with the protection of the sea. And also through the support of its structure, it's divided in territorial division. We have Marevivo Sicilia, Marevivo Campania, Marevivo Puglia, Marevivo Veneto. And at the same time, we have a division specialized in diving, sails, beaches, territorial delegation, and MPA delegation, the one I am mainly interested in. Okay. The project, I'm really happy that I'm speaking just after Domenico SGAMBATI with I work with him. So he already introduced the Punta Campanella area because the project I'm talking to you today regards Punta Campanella. It's carried out in the context of Gulf of Naples and Gulf of Salerno. The project I'm talking whose protagonists are the caretta turtles. The project involves the coast guards of Salerno and Naples, involves fishermen who are probably the main important aspect of this project, as well as turtle center, recovery center that insists on the territory of Napoli. Okay. Well, the central themes regards the destiny of the turtles, object to the accidental capture in fishing nets, by catch as it is said, and the destiny of these turtles is rather uncertain. The chances of survival of turtles released in jury are very limited. Okay, I go. Okay, concerning this project, we have tried to highlight two recommendations that we are talking about for the forum, the 2.1 and 2.2, related to the recovery of an ecosystem and the involvement of a civil society in the protection of the environment. And in a bit, I will explain how we would like to develop these two recommendations. All right. Regarding the project, we had critical aspects that we found. First of all, probably the first one was bureaucracy. The second one was logistic. There were the involvement of two different coast guards. It was the first problem, one from Salerno, Coast Guard of Salerno, and the Coast Guard of Naples. And then we have the fact that the turtles lives in the Gulf of Salerno, while the turtle point, the turtle recovery center, insists instead in the one of Naples. So about competence was quite difficult. And it all started, the idea of the project all started from the fact that the number of reports from trout fishermen had greatly reduced. So we looked at the reporting mechanism and tried to find a practical solution. I'd like to underline that we really tried to be very, very practical in this case, because we looked at the situation, we understood that there was something that was not working, and so we tried to find a reasonable solution. The ordinary procedure was for fishermen, while finding a turtle, to report the findings of turtles to the Coast Guard. So we assisted to the fact that they had no given result in recent years. Despite the presence testified by a lot of nests on the beach in the area concerned. So we have tried discussing to invert this mechanism. And as I was saying, in order to really get to a concrete result. So we had some meetings. Domenico was with me in one of them at the port of Salerno, and it was agreed that fishermen, while catching tartar, instead of calling first Coast Guard, could call first marine biologists. But not only any biologist, but just one authorized by the Ministry of Environmental. So just a few biologists authorized to receive reports from fishermen. At the second later, they could prepare their schedule to send to Capitaneria, I mean Coast Guard. This one is the result of what we obtained. 170 turtles have been rescued in the recent years. You can see that in 2020, we had 32 new nests identified, while this year really was a great success for us. They became 57. And of course, the action are contributing to increase awareness of turtle conservation. And it's really we hope that this mechanism has contributed. I mean, the fact of having more reports from fishermen and more turtle saved could address to new nests. This is the idea. We hope that we assisted, we obtained this result. We think that we contribute in this way to the result. Lesson learned for this project. First of all, we learned that it's very important to observe the phenomenon from a different point of views, such as the one of fishermen. So for fishermen, the difficulty to send a report to Coast Guard, which means a more straight relation with Coast Guard that could be difficult in some case. And the point of view also of maritime authorities and above all, turtles. Another difficulty of the project was that the marine protect area of Punta Campanella in question covers only partially the area object of interest. Turtles were found in the Gulf of Salerno, as I was saying before, so outside the area of Punta Campanella, and also the nests that we have found this year in the 2021, where most of them were located on the beach of Salerno, and not in the one of Naples, where instead is the turtle point. We learned this lesson. I think that we were very practical, as I already said. And our idea is also to write a memorandum with all the parties involved in this project. I mean, fishermen, Coast Guard, MPA, and environmental association that has contributed to this result, and to extend this memorandum of understanding to the other MPA in Italy. We would like to really realize this one. Let me take advantage of the situation to talk you of the last result that we obtained as Marevivo, because in Italy was approved this law called Salva Mare that was proposed by our association. It kind of law that allows fishermen to bring import plastic waste. You know that in the past, transporting waste, of course, was a criminal violation. It was unauthorized waste trafficking. So it's been really a great result for us that quite difficult to obtain the approbation of the law in Italy, you know, between Senate and the Parliament. So a lot of steps. But for us, it would be really important in the future to have a specific plastic fisherman that could represent a solution for the problem. Okay, and at the same time, also about Marevivo, a couple of weeks ago, we obtained this awareness as Environmental Association of the Year for 2021. Okay, I'd like to close my presentation. First of all, I'd like to thank Punta Campanella, which assisted us in the project, and also Coast Guard of Salerno. In this special picture, it was on January. We released the torta in front of Capri, you know, Punta Campanella is in front of Capri, testifying the collaboration with the institution and the association. Ok, io vi ringrazio, but I'd like to close saying that really my experience is that an association like ours or like other association could be really useful in the matter, because it can speak to everybody, probably sometime less formally. So as the possibility to access to the institution and to have a more deep impact just going out of bureaucracy. So I hope you appreciate it. Grazie.
Very much. Thank you very much, Pietro, for sticking to the time in the presentation and for advancing clear indication on the actions, indicators, and partnerships, need partnerships to feed the roadmap recommendation. So as Souha has stated already, we will continue with the presentation, and we will ask our third speaker to come and to present his case study. So Joachim will give you the floor, and please stick to the time, since we know that you have a long presentation, but I'm sure that you will be sticking to the
Yes,
line.
yes, I will, don't worry.
We'll remind you in any case.
Hello,
You have the floor.
everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you after such a long time. The work I'm going to present you is a bit different from the two before because it's based on a model. And we build this model trying to inform how to establish MPAs that rely on full protection or no-take zones, but that goes beyond. So it fits to the theme, and it is issued from the work of Charlotte Seb, who's not with us, but it's from her PhD work, and she's just about to finish the PhD. Okay, so just to remind you, you know that MPAs, they can have some benefits inside, so they can have more fish with a larger size, more biomass, more diversity, and this effect, they can spill over the boundaries of the MPA, so they can go outside, either by what we call spillover, so the movement of adults, or export or larvae, and it is the larval subsidy that go and can replenish the fishing areas. And in the context of a network, we can, so you don't see here with the colors, but there were a lot of loops and feedbacks, and we expect exchanges in between the pieces of the network, so the potential protected areas and all the outside areas, and they should contribute to fishing benefits. So I'm sorry you don't see the lines here. But something we need to recall first is that not all MPAs are created equal, and we all know that. And most of the benefits, all of the documented benefit from the scientific literature, they mostly rely on those things which are fully protected areas or no-take zones. And they are the ones that are the most effective. And then there are 4 different levels of protection that has been defined recently in the MPA guide that has been published in Science. And the lower is the level of protection, the least benefit you can expect from the MPA, whether inside and of course outside. But the more you protect, the less you have access to a given area. And so the idea, the question we asked was how to optimize ecological and fisheries benefits in multi-use MPA. So we know that if we want effective MPAs for the environment, for ecological benefits, and for fisheries, we need fully protected areas. This has been documented, okay? We know we need to do that, but we don't do it. Why? Because there is a problem of access, a psychological problem with access, and that we believe that the benefits are lower than the cost, at least at the beginning. So how to combine levels of protection and access to please everyone? So the idea is that we worked on different protection levels. So fully protected area, and we included in our model all the different fishing activities that you see here. So in a fully protected area, everything is forbidden. No one can have access. In a highly protected area, you can have line fishing. In lightly protected area, you can have all the sort of fishing except trawling. And in unprotected area, you can have trawling. Okay, so these are the 4 levels of protection we're going to deal with in the next presentation, with trying to stick with this color code. And I won't go in the detail at all, but so we have a model with a lot of different cells. And the idea is when we protect a cell, there is a given benefit depending on the fishing pressure that is or not in the cell. So all the different fishing activities that we saw before, and depending on how many fish remains in the cell that is being protected, they can move or export larvae in the cells around. So it is a system that is connected one with the other, and when the effect is dependent on the fishing pressure in the cell. And so the networks we built to rely on is, for example, this is a network of only fully protected area. Okay, so we have 6 fully protected areas, and the area around is not protected and can be fished. And so then we focus on 3 different places in the network. So we have inside the protected areas, we have in between, so it is fishable, so it's unprotected area but inside the network, and we have outside of the network. And then we can have network of a highly protected area or lightly protected areas, and we can have all the combination of those. So this is what we worked on, and we try to find good combination that allow to have ecological and fisheries benefits. And so this is a gradient of protection. The more we are on the left, the more protected are the protected elements of the network. And we can see this as the gradient of access. The more we are on the right side, the more access is for fisheries, because the less protected it is. And so now if we look at the results, for example, for fish, so the ecological benefits of those networks, and we follow them across time. And these are different types of networks with a combination of protection level. So if you are on the top, you are a network only of fully protected area, so low access, and on the bottom, networks of lightly protected area, high access. And we can look at how the results propagate around time and across the different type of networks. This is just to show you how we will look at the results. And we can do the same for the fisheries benefits. Okay, this is the same axis here and here, but instead of looking here at fish biomass inside the water, we will look at fisheries catch. And so these are the first results that we can see. So this is, you see the fish, these are the biomass, fish biomass inside the water. This is inside the network and inside the MPAs of the network. So you can see what was expected, obviously, the more you are on the top right. So I'm sorry, we don't see very well the color, but the more you are on the top right, the better it is for the fish, because you have been protected for a long time, and you are in a place where a lot of the elements of the network are fully protected. So this is not a surprise. This has been shown many times in the literature. Now, if we look at inside the network, but in between the MPAs. So these are the areas that are the light blue here of the networks. And what we can see is that at the beginning, we have a negative effect on fish biomass. Why do we have that? Because once you forbid an area to a given fishing activity, then if the fishing effort is remaining constant, they fish more around the place that is being protected. So you have more fishing pressure at the beginning. You have more fishing pressure in this light blue when it is protected. And this is the negative effect that we see. Then it is null, because there is a compensation, an offsetting from the cells that are being protected to the light blue, and then it is positive. And what we can see is that the effect is the smaller negative, so the least bad for fish biomass, is when you are fully protected, and then you have a very little time when it's null, and then you increase again. And you can see that obviously the more you allow fishing, the less you benefit for fish biomass inside the light blue. And when you look outside of the network, you can see that it takes time. Okay, it takes time to have some benefits, but there is no negative effect outside of the network. And at some point, you have some positive effects outside of the network in the case of quite protected MPAs. So now the same thing, but looking at fisheries catch. And so this is, this was a summary of that. So this is still fish biomass, all areas combined. So inside the protected areas, in between the protected areas of the network and outside of the network. And we can see that overall, there is only a positive benefits. So now for the fisheries catch, so what the fishermen get from the network. And you can see that the fisheries catch, all fishing combined, they are better when you have networks that are fully or a combination of fully and highly protected areas. So yes, they have less access overall, but they benefit better fisheries catch. And of course, because they lose access at the beginning, there is a moment, and this is the problem, I think the main problem of fully protected area. We can see the benefits are much larger than the cost, but not at the very beginning. And this is the problem we have to implement fully protected areas. At the beginning, there is no effect because you lose something and it takes time to compensate. But then it is much better for fisheries to have fully protected areas. And outside of the network, look, this is pretty obvious. There are no benefits at all if you have networks of a combination of protected areas with low levels of protection. And outside of the network, you have benefits for fisheries catch only in the case of strong levels of protection, so fully or highly protected areas. And yes, it takes a bit of time, but the benefits in between the areas are quite fast. Huh? And so I won't go into detail, but just to show you that we can look at that for different types, because before it was all these fisheries activity combined, we can look at that for the different types of activities. And you can see that even those that are removed in all cases from the fully protected areas, they still benefit. And even them, they benefit the most when the MPAs are fully protected, because they can export biomass in those places where they are when they can fish. And so this is the final slide. So how to choose the best network. So we did an exercise where we looked at the combination of conservation benefits, so what is good for fish biomass inside the water, and the fisheries benefits, what is good for fishermen in terms of fisheries catch. And so these are the combination of protection levels as we saw before. This is a color code. So the more it is pinkish, the more it is protected. The more it is green, the least it is protected. And so we look at that. If we are here, it is very good for fish biomass, but very bad for fisheries catch, because no fisheries catch. If we are here, it is very good for fisheries catch, but very bad for fish biomass. And the best solution for everyone is on this corner. And now we look at what happens through time. So look, this is the number of years. And you can see at the beginning, you had a little decrease because it was the time it take for the fisheries benefit to happen. So up after 5 years, you can see that fully protected areas, which are always better for fish biomass, they start to be better even for fisheries after 5 years. And we can look at that for different type of fishing activities through time and for any kind of combination of protection levels that we want. And this shows that protection levels matter even for fisheries, and even fisheries that benefit from networks of fully protected areas. And they lose at the beginning. Look, if we look at the very beginning, what seems to be good from 0 to 5 years, because this is where they think there is a gain, but this gain is lost after 5 years if we have low levels of protection in the network. So the key messages is that it is important to design networks of MPAs to allow access to a broad range of users, but networks are not only the protected areas. Networks are also the areas in between the protected areas. So a network of fully protected areas and highly protected areas, this is a combination already of various users that can be allowed. And it is important to implement networks of connected and fully protected areas, because these are the ones that maximize both conservation and fisheries outcomes. And when we need to have lower levels of protection, it is very important to adapt the regulation in those lower levels of protection to ensure that threats to ecosystem and on fisheries are reduced, because a threat on ecosystem is a threat on what fisheries rely on. And I'm done. Thank you.
Monsieur, allô? Oui. Donc, à moins qu'il n'y ait de questions très pressantes, une ou deux, à nos trois intervenants. Autrement, nous lançons dans le débat tout de suite. Est-ce qu'il y a une question qui ne peut pas attendre? Apparemment. Il y en a une, apparemment. The microphone.
I'm Pepa Mengual from the Spanish National Park Network, and I have a question for Joachim. You have present a model based on networks. What do you think about multi-site MPAs? Because it's the model which is more, let's say, we have more this kind of MPAs in the Mediterranean than real regional networks. So do you think the model can be adapted, can be useful also for this kind of multi-site MPAs?
So when you say multi-site MPAs, like MPAs with different zones, right? Yes.
Different levels
Of protection. Yes, 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 totally, totally. And this is what we had in mind at the beginning. And this model is meant to inform, it is the basis of something we are building to inform the zoning of a natural marine park in France, which is in the Gulf of Lions, where they want to find where it is best to put fully protected areas. So this is totally usable or adaptable depending on the species, etc., or the different type of fishing activities for multi-zone MPAs. Yes.
Okay. Zafir, yes, just one further question. You can move there, Zafir. Yeah, please.
Thank you all for these great presentations. Joachim, we have been working on some other issues for some time. The question is this 0.04. I hate these numbers. Since 2016, we are there. 0.04% of the fully protected areas in whole Mediterranean. Why we cannot progress any further in the last 5 years? And what is the barriers in front of this 0.04? That means we have to change our methodology from the beginning, or our attitude, or the attitude of rule makers. So there's something wrong. These models are amazing. Okay, show somebody on the high level. We are going to put this node in fully protected areas there, in a manner of ecological connectivity. But why cannot we do this? Why we are still at 0.04? We are talking about 2030 targets, 30 by 30. If we keep our methodology like this, we still see the same number 0.04 in 2030. Because in my case, I know that there's a big objection of fully protected areas without any scientific knowledge, or without just a kind of a beliefs. They don't want any no fishing zones, no fully protected areas. That's a big pressure on the government, big pressure on all stakeholders. But what should be the new methodology that we should start from the beginning and change all the perceptions on the rule maker levels? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure I'm the most qualified to answer that, and I don't think so. But I will just give you my opinion. There's a lot of elements to answer you. So there's as usual, there's not one single voice to find, one single path to follow, obviously. But as I said in my talk, I think one of the main elements is the fact that the cost is higher than the benefits at the very beginning. And I think this is the major barrier. And because of that, we don't have, there is opposition. And people think there is the overall perception that if you lose access, you lose something. And I think this is human. But every scientific papers that look at fisheries benefit of fully protected area, they show that they work. And so the major barrier of why do we have a solo number of full protection in the MEDs, this answer is not meant to be funny, but it's just because we have a solo number. We need more fully protected areas for the people to understand that they benefit from that, and to have more fully protected area that goes against the immediate perception of people. We need political will. And I think at some point, having consultancies, people needed to agree. We need that. We need equity. We need social justice. We need all that. We need MPAs for fisheries. We don't want fishermen to stop fishing, obviously. But at some point, we need some political will to establish those fully protected areas. They will provide the benefits, and there will be a snowball effect. All the users will realize that they benefit from those MPAs, and they will ask for some more. I don't know a place, prove me wrong. Anyone prove me wrong. I don't know a place in the world, I work in different places, where there are fully protected areas that are being implemented, enforced, and so that they work, where fishermen are against it once it is being established. They are against it once before it is being established. But when they work, no one wants to get rid of them because they are effective. So we just need some people to say, okay, at some point, we need to put some fully protected areas, and you will see it works. Because it's true that communication, showing evidence, making roundtables, it doesn't work. I don't think it works unfortunately, it doesn't work.
Thank you, Zafar and Claude and Joachim, for having started the discussion already, because the first point of discussion would be to tell us what actions do you think could help us to achieve this this objective, I mean, of increasing the number and coverage of highly protected areas and fully protected areas. So we've heard the political will and human nature. So any other views or comments on this? What kind of actions do you think do we need to have in our roadmap? No hands, no.
Bonjour, je vais parler en français pour changer un peu. Je suis d'accord avec tout ce que vous avez dit, et donc il faut savoir qu'il y a pas mal d'aires marines protégées dans lesquelles les pêcheurs sont super motivés et peuvent témoigner de l'efficacité des zones de non-prélèvement. Et donc, je sais qu'il y a beaucoup d'aires marines protégées qui, dans un processus de création de nouvelles zones de non-prélèvement, organisent des rencontres entre pêcheurs et pêcheurs pour que des gens du même métier qui se comprennent, qui parlent la même langue, puissent témoigner. Chez nous, ça marche, allez-y, ça va marcher pour vous aussi. Je sais que c'est des choses qui marchent très bien. Et une autre chose très intéressante dans le process, c'est de pouvoir inclure ces pêcheurs, mais pas seulement eux, mais aussi les plongeurs, les autres usagers, les inclure dès le début. On a des cas d'études comme ça, où ils peuvent travailler ensemble pour pouvoir positionner la zone au bon endroit, qu'elle puisse être cohérente aussi bien écologiquement que socialement. Et lorsque c'est fait comme ça, l'acceptabilité sociale fait qu'on peut toujours surveiller, bien sûr, l'obéissance à cette nouvelle réglementation, mais elle sera de toute manière naturellement suivie parce qu'elle est déjà appropriée par les gens qui ont été inclus dans ce process. Donc, le réseau humain.
Oui, merci.
Oui, non, je sais pas. Non, je voulais remercier les intervenants pour ces interventions. Moi, je pense qu'effectivement, par expérience de ce que l'on a mené…
Sorry, Jean-Michel. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Ah oui, Jean-Michel Coulioli, excusez-moi, Jean-Michel Coulioli, Office de l'environnement de la Corse, Natural Reserve of Bonifacio Strait. Je crois qu'effectivement, la première des choses, c'est quand même de s'attaquer, quand on veut créer des aires marines protégées, quand on veut passer de 0,04 à 30 et à 10, et vous verrez la fin de mon propos, bien évidemment, il faut travailler avec les pêcheurs professionnels, avec les pêcheurs artisans. Il faut clairement indiquer qu'on est contre un modèle, qui est le modèle de la pêche industrielle. Je crois qu'à un moment donné, on ne peut pas penser qu'on peut promouvoir le tourisme de masse dans nos aires marines protégées. Je fais le parallèle entre les activités touristiques et la pêche. La ressource, qu'elle soit biologique ou paysagère, elle n'est pas illimitée. Donc, de toute façon, on doit déjà poser des préalables. Le préalable, c'est vraiment, et c'est ce que l'on fait depuis des années dans les réseaux avec la pêche, avec les pêcheurs artisans, quand on travaille avec eux à l'échelle de la Méditerranée, c'est aussi parce qu'on a pris conscience que c'est important de discuter avec eux. Donc, je pense que la première des discussions que l'on doit avoir, c'est cette logique de soutenabilité, de bons modèles que l'on va mettre en place et quelque part de garantir, de pérenniser. Je fais le lien avec le tourisme aussi, parce qu'on ne peut pas mettre un bœuf dans un œuf et quelque part, forcément, on est obligé d'atteindre une limite et d'entrer la soutenabilité. Les activités touristiques, dans 20 ans, les générations que l'on interroge maintenant, qui ont 5, 10 ans, 15 ans, ils feront du tourisme soutenable, ils ne feront pas du tourisme de masse. Donc, la pêche, c'est pareil, et de toute façon, on est obligé de partir dans ce sens. Donc, fort de l'expérience que l'on a, je crois aussi, et j'en terminerai là, on ne peut pas dire simplement on veut des réserves intégrales. Il faut mettre le préalable, c'est la réserve intégrale. Autour, c'est une réserve partielle, avec des bénéfices qui vont être plus rapides. Parce que dans une réserve partielle, on obtient des bénéfices plus rapides. Les lavettes, c'est depuis 1992 qu'on compte les poissons avec les pêcheurs artisans, on a des bénéfices qui ont été maintenus déjà depuis le départ. Dès qu'on interdit certaines pratiques de pêche qui s'accélèrent, la pêche récréative, elle devient extrêmement nocive pour la ressource. Donc, il faut rapidement dire, on met un cadre d'une réserve intégrale, on met une réserve partielle et on crée un périmètre général. Je crois qu'on est dans, il faut ce système-là pour convaincre tout le monde. Et j'en terminerai en disant qu'effectivement, on est tous très heureux d'entendre 10%, 30%, mais je pense que pour les 10% de protection forte, il faut être très clair avec les gouvernements et il faut que l'on arrive à ces 2% de réserve intégrale dans ces 10% de zones de protection forte. Voilà. Je crois que le débat, il est vraiment de partir d'une réserve intégrale, de mettre en place des zones partielles et des périmètres plus larges avec des objectifs qui sont de maintenir une ressource soutenable, mais avec un préalable de 2% au minimum. Hein. Je crois que quand on voit Marseille à 10%, c'est quand même, on a des zones possibles. Il ne faut peut-être pas qu'on soit énorme. Hein. Je sais que sur Bonifacio, on est à 4%, mais il ne faut pas les bouger après. Et puis surtout, ben, il faut se mettre dans notre feuille de route que ces 10%, il faut qu'il y ait au moins 2% de zones totalement intégrales.
Merci Jean-Mi pour ce retour.
Je pense soit que M. Diego Alvarez avait demandé la parole à un certain moment, oui.
Thank you very much. Regarding the question of which lines we should go on, and there's one thing is happening in the Balearic Islands that I would like just to express, just to consider it. Is the increase? I mean, the Balearic Islands, the professional fishery has been going down during the last decades, and the recreational fishery has been going up. Actually, right now, the catches are at the same level. So the recreational fishery has really a strong importance right in the Balearics. And the truth is that during the last 2 decades, many research regard to understand the relations between marine protected areas and the fisheries has been very concentrated on the professional fisheries, artisanal fisheries mainly. And what is happening now in the Balearics is that there's been a strong movement on the recreational fishery sector, not only fishermen, but fishermen responsible of marinas, companies in charge of boat reparation, shops selling material for fisheries, and they are making very strong lobby, and they have a movement called No More MPAs, and it's really strong. I have discussions with my colleagues because they say, okay, don't worry, they always shout, but they don't bite. And I think that currently the lobby they are creating is being huge, at least in the Balearics. I don't know in other places, also in Cádiz, in the south of Spain. So I really think that we have to keep this in mind because we have been very focused, at least that's my impression, on the professional fishery, and we have been kind of forgetting the recreational fishery. And I mean, which is the thought to give more weight to the professional fishery. There is ethical on that. There is ethics, basic ethics on that, but the recreational activity is there, and we have to really think what are we going to do with these lobbies because they are getting very strong.
Catherine? Yes, please.
Yeah, I would like to continue the discussion that started with Jean-Michel and with what you just said, Diego. Maybe the model you tested in the Bush de Bonifacio, Jean-Michel, which includes so the no-take zones, and then you have around that buffer zones that are mostly dedicated to professional fishermen, artisan fishermen, and then you have the third zone that is for everybody. I think it's a very interesting model because then you can actually use this zoning to compare the pressure of the types of fisheries on the resource. You have a way to show that. That's what you showed. Wait, where is Jean-Michel? Ah, yeah. You have a way you showed that when you decrease the pressure of the recreational fisheries on the resource, then the catches, the yields of the professional fisheries really increased. So you could actually, using that way of zoning, differentiate and show the impacts of different types of pressures. Maybe this is something we should recommend to generalize wherever it's possible in the rest of the Med, because then it solves the ethical issues that you're talking about, and it's a way really to differentiate the type of the impact on the resource. I don't know what you think, but maybe that's one recommendation.
Quelqu'un d'abord?
Jean-Michel.
C'est dur, hein. Non, oui, je crois que Catherine, tu as parfaitement raison hein, sur le fait que tout ça est bien évidemment basé sur le suivi que l'on fait. Tout à l'heure, je me reconnaissais dans la démonstration que l'on a fait pour protéger le corbe en Corse. Grâce à nos suivis, on a réussi à montrer qu'en 25 ans, on avait les biomasses qui étaient remontées uniquement parce qu'on avait interdit la chasse sous-marine et pas parce qu'on avait interdit la pêche artisanale. Donc, aujourd'hui, on sait qu'effectivement, la pêche, je rejoins ce qui a été dit sur les Baléares, parce que ça va très, très vite. La pêche récréative, aujourd'hui, elle est extrêmement, je disais tout à l'heure, nocive, mais c'est vraiment, il faut réagir très vite. Donc, il faut mettre en place des processus de régulation. Sur le périmètre général, on a un système de déclaration qu'on va renforcer. On a mis dans nos zones de protection renforcée, qui sont les zones où la pêche artisanale peut librement être effective. La chasse sous-marine est interdite à l'intérieur, mais dans ces zones-là, on a limité l'accès à la pêche récréative à simplement 400 pêcheurs. Et on limite à 5 kilos maximum. Et on va, en 2023, remettre encore un coup de vis sur la base de nos suivis. Donc, il faut s'adapter aussi à cette situation. Mais le modèle général, ça reste un modèle avec un périmètre qui reste fixe. Et puis après, immédiatement, les pêcheurs, dans un processus de création, c'est ce qu'on fait sur Porto, ce qu'on essaye de faire sur Porto, en créant une réserve autour de Scande. C'est commencer à travailler avec les pêcheurs professionnels immédiatement, en leur disant ben, il va falloir que de toute façon, on réduise l'accès à la pêche aux pêcheurs récréatifs. Et c'est fondamental, parce que effectivement, les pêcheurs récréatifs aujourd'hui ont des moyens technologiques qui sont beaucoup plus performants qu'un pêcheur artisan. Et donc, à l'heure où on parle, j'ai des personnes qui vont prendre des avions de Milan, de Gênes, de Londres pour venir essayer de faire partie des premiers 400 qui viendront avoir la dérogation, parce qu'on commence le 1er décembre à ouvrir ces dérogations possibles pour les 400 en essayant de limiter, bien évidemment, aux associations locales. Mais il y a une pression énorme. Donc, il faut impérativement réguler, et peut-être que demain, ça sera plus 400, ça sera 200, ça sera 150, et ça sera peut-être plus rien dans 20 ans. Moi, je fais le parallèle avec ce que j'ai connu sur la pression de la ressource. J'ai 53 ans. Quand on était petit, on pêchait ce qu'on voulait dans les Bouches de Bonifacio. Aujourd'hui, il y a 3300 pêcheurs qui nous font une demande pour venir pêcher dans les Bouches de Bonifacio. Et sur ces 3300, vous en avez au moins la moitié qui sont capables, grâce à un tuto Internet et des pressions avec justement ces lobbying de la pêche récréative qui sont énormes entre les bateaux et les vendeurs de cannes et les vendeurs de matériel, de mettre en place des pressions et demain d'avoir un effet extrêmement négatif. Donc, n'oublions pas aussi ce que ça produit, c'est la diminution de la ressource, c'est ce qu'on a augmenté sur des zones où on a 10 fois plus de poissons en 10 ans. Donc, on a beaucoup plus de plongeurs. Aujourd'hui, on est en train de développer des activités de snorkeling où on voit des mérous qui se reproduisent. Et au Lavez, aujourd'hui, on voit des mérous de plus de 15-20 kilos qui se reproduisent. C'est-à-dire, on voit ça tout simplement, pas avec des bouteilles à 15 mètres, on les voit dans 5 mètres d'eau. Je crois que Bagnouche, c'est pareil. Donc, on arrive à maintenir vraiment des activités de découverte et y compris des activités touristiques pour ça. Voilà. Donc, c'est très important d'avoir un processus de gestion adaptatif basé sur des activités de monitoring et sur après des réglementations que l'on met en place, mais sur un principe de base avec des périmètres où ça ne bouge pas.
Merci Jean-Michel. On redonne la parole à Joachim. Après, on va avoir 2 interventions en ligne.
Thank you. Just to say that I obviously I fully agree with all what have been said, and I want to reemphasize. I have two comments. One is about the MPA guide. In the MPA guide, we don't distinguish between professional, recreative, subsistence fishing, because we consider that for something that is supposed to be objective in terms of the impact a given activity has on the ecosystem, what matters is whether it is sustainable or non-sustainable. So I think whether we give priority to artisanal fishing in face of recreational fishing and in face of industrial fishing, I think we would all agree on what would be the order here, but this is a question of a political choice for a given territory. But what is important for the ecosystem is whether it is sustainable or not. So the MPA guide accounts for that, the impact each activity has on the ecosystem. And something we can think in the Med, and which would work also elsewhere, because we are even champion in Europe. Let's start by the low-hanging fruit, and I think we would all agree, because it won't impact artisanal fishermen. Why are we having trolling inside MPAs? I'm asking that question. Why are we calling marine protected areas where we can troll? 95% of Mediterranean MPAs, we can troll in them. And according to IUCN, trolling is not compatible with marine protection. So, okay, we can deal with artisanal, recreational, etc. Let's start by trolling. It concerns very limited amount of people in terms of fishermen activity. It is very often industrial, although it can be artisanal in some areas in the Med, but it is mostly industrial. It is the fishing activity that has the most impact on the resource, and it shouldn't happen inside MPA, whatever is the protection level of the MPA. If an MPA is marine protected area, it shouldn't allow trolling.
Thank you, Joachim. I'll be back to you, please, because we have two persons online. Yes. So the first one, François Victor, please.
Oui, bonjour. Je suis directeur adjoint du Parc national de Port-Cros. C'est pas une question, c'est une réaction. En fait, par rapport à cette différence entre les pêcheurs professionnels et les pêcheurs de loisirs, on est en fait dans un système politique dans lequel en fait les pêcheurs professionnels ont souhaité pendant très longtemps être les interlocuteurs sur la mer de tous les aménageurs et de tous les services publics. Ce qui fait qu'on a négligé complètement la représentation, je pense, des pêcheurs de loisirs. Aujourd'hui, ces pêcheurs de loisirs en fait sont organisés effectivement en lobby. Et c'est l'histoire, excusez-moi à traduire, c'est pas facile, c'est l'histoire de la grenouille à grande bouche. C'est-à-dire que quand il s'agit de dire qu'on pèse beaucoup au niveau économique, qu'on est très nombreux, qu'on rapporte beaucoup à l'économie, alors là, on a une très grande bouche. Par contre, et moi j'ai assisté plusieurs fois à ces questions, quand on commence à dire, bon, alors vous êtes très nombreux, donc vous devez avoir un impact certain sur la ressource, alors là, on n'est plus du tout là-dedans. Et l'impact est extrêmement réduit. Il n'y en a pas beaucoup par ici. Vraiment, alors là, si vous savez, on pêche quasiment rien en réalité avec ces moyens-là. Tout ça pour dire que je ne pense pas que ce soit forcément que la question des chaluts qui ne se pose pas du tout de la même façon du côté atlantique, par exemple, que du côté méditerranéen. On est sur une pêche de professionnels. Notamment, je parle de ce que je connais sur Port-Cros, les ganguis nous posent problème, effectivement, là il y a du chalutage, mais un chalut de ce style-là n'a rien à voir d'un côté avec les chaluts qui sont en Atlantique et qui labourent les fonds, et par ailleurs, aujourd'hui, nous avons énormément de mal à avoir des données, non pas des données ER comme je l'ai inscrit sur le chat, mais des données ES, sur les données justement de ces pêcheurs de loisirs qui ne veulent pas d'ailleurs communiquer ces données, qui ne jouent pas le jeu très clairement et qui en réalité aujourd'hui sont en train de devenir les premiers prédateurs de ces zones qui sont extrêmement attractives pour la plaisance, donc extrêmement attractives aussi pour une pêche de plaisance. Et je rejoins complètement ce qui a été dit par notre ami Corse, Aujourd'hui, c'est ça qui est en train de devenir, à mon avis, l'urgence. Donc oui, bien entendu, le chalut est un gros problème, mais on continue à jouer le jeu aujourd'hui, finalement, qui arrange les pêcheurs de loisirs, à continuer à cibler énormément la pêche professionnelle. Sur Port-Cros, nous avons, maintenant, un numerus clausus. Il y a 10 pêcheurs professionnels autorisés dans le cœur de Port-Cros, et c'est tout. Et donc, quelque part, on a une certaine maîtrise, on sait ce qui est là, on connaît les quantités prélevées. À côté de ça, tout ce qui se passe avec la pêche de loisirs est quelque chose qui aujourd'hui nous échappe beaucoup trop et sur lequel on a du mal à reprendre pied. Et c'est ça, je pense, un peu ce qui nous menace actuellement sur tous ces sites qui deviennent en plus hyper attractifs pour ces plaisanciers. Voilà pour moi.
Merci, cher François. Alors, le temps passe. On va également donner la parole à notre collègue Philippe Théo du CNU PAM qui participe en ligne.
Merci beaucoup, Atef. Bonjour tout le monde. Alors tout d'abord, je voulais vous remercier vraiment pour ces échanges. Je pense que c'est vraiment très intéressant. J'ai suivi la cérémonie d'ouverture, si je puis dire, ce matin. Et il y a quand même quelque chose d'intéressant. C'est que là, on a parlé de la France, on a parlé de l'Italie, on a parlé de l'Espagne. Mais il manque 90% de la Méditerranée là, dans la discussion. Il manque comme ça a été démontré ce matin, il y a quand même un manque d'air protégé dans tout le sud méditerranéen, dans tout le Levant. Et c'était quelque chose que je voulais mettre en avant, comme ça a été comme ça a été discuté aussi pour la Corse. L'idée d'avoir des gens qui viennent de Gênes et qui demandent de venir en Corse pour pouvoir pêcher, et je pense que c'est important de le faire, mais si on met des réglementations plus strictes, surtout au niveau des États de l'Union européenne, il va y avoir nécessairement un transfert vers d'autres pays, que ce soit vers le Maghreb, que ce soit aussi en Albanie, Monténégro, le Levant. Voilà, il va y avoir ces transferts qu'il va falloir, il va falloir aider les acteurs locaux dans ces pays-là pour pouvoir faire face à cet afflux, parce que ça peut vraiment être un afflux. Moi, ce n'est pas au niveau de la pêche, mais que ce soit par exemple au niveau de la chasse, qu'elle soit légale ou illégale. Par exemple, en Albanie, j'ai cette expérience-là. Voilà, il y a des centaines de personnes qui viennent en hiver et qui viennent tirer des oiseaux migrateurs en Albanie parce qu'on ne peut plus le faire dans l'Union européenne. Donc, je présume, et je pense que c'était ce que le collègue de Corse a très bien mis en avant, c'est que ça va être la même chose aussi pour les espèces marines. Et je pense qu'il y a vraiment, et je pense que le forum et le roadmap est vraiment l'occasion aussi de mettre en avant cette collaboration au niveau méditerranéen, ce support peut-être de la part des États du Nord, des États de l'Union européenne, pour aider les autres pays à faire face, à anticiper cet afflux pour protéger ce qui est encore généralement, au point de vue écologique, de très bonne qualité dans ces pays-là. Voilà, je voulais simplement partager ce point de vue-là. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Philippe. Il y a notre ami de Banyuls qui a demandé la parole.
Philippe L'Enfant from Perpignan University. Just to complete the fact that yes, there is some problem with the recreational fishermen, but in some place they are agreed to modify their behavior. They can increase the minimum size of catch, etc. Then I think we have to discuss with them because we can have some problem in acceptability if we want to increase some place in other place. But my recommendation is to yes, we have to increase the surface of MPA of no-take zone. But what is the minimum size of the no-take zone? I think we have to and I think also that we can propose some surface because we have a lot of study in Mediterranean Sea, and I think we are able to propose what is the minimum. And in terms of habitat, we have also to recommend to make some recommendation about the ecological function. We have to protect nursery, we have to protect some reproduction zone, and we have to integrate all this aspect in our recommendation. And we need some behavior and some knowledge. And we have for scientists, we have to increase some scientific program about this topic. Thank you.
Merci Philippe. Monsieur en bleu.
Thank you. Just a last comment. We're speaking a lot about Frédéric Villers from French Biodiversity Agency. One of the actions I think is missing is how to communicate about it, because rationally we can demonstrate we need to reinforce the protection, but still the colleague was saying 0.04%. That means, in a sense, it has been a kind of a failure for the last years to manage to convince people who have the power to do it, not to do it. So why? That certainly means that the way we communicate or we try to convince them is not good enough. So basically that means, I think in each country, we should first have a look of why it's not working. I think the issues are really different from south of Mediterranean and the northern, and then find the way to communicate well. That means basically if the issue is fishermen, maybe the model proved that if in 10 years we can say in 10 years you will have an export of many fish, that basically means you will make more money. That's a way to convince fishermen. If the issue is politics or authorities, maybe say, you know, in 5 years it's going to create 2 more jobs, and then you find the way to communicate to the priority targets. I think the biggest issue is to convince the ones who have the authority to take it. Then how to do it, we know how to do it. It's consultation meetings and find a way. But I think this issue most of the time is not well done. I take the comparison with anchoring. In France, 20 years, we give money to associations, or we try to do things to say, stop anchoring. It's not working. So basically we have to focus who is the target we really want to change, to convince, and what is the main message we want to give them, to convince them. This is basically applying environmental marketing to our objective.
Thank you very much. So last intervention, because we have to to close the session in order to prepare the report of the session. So please.
Hello, everybody. I think I have to introduce myself, Elena Valsecchi, because nobody knows me because I'm not involved in MPAs. So I'm giving a, can you hear me? Yes. So I'm giving a view as an outsider, and possibly it's out of place or very naive. But what I can see is that from one side, we have the resistance from the fishermen and local people. And on the other side, we have the scientific data proving that it's worthwhile establishing MPAs, and it's possibly it's the only way to go. So I was wondering if it's conceivable to think for a politician to do something in terms that the resistance possibly is due to the fact that people see the MPA's institution as a no return step. So once in an area there is an MPAs, that will be forever. And what about instead thinking of a sort of fixed term MPAs? I imagine that there is a big machine behind the institution of MPAs, of course, but if that would be possible, people would see that they are investing and possibly decreasing their fisheries capabilities for 5 years, but then somebody else will take on board and protect another area. So to identify very specific hot spots to be preserved. And then in turn, other will switch on. So everybody will give their own contribution, and it will be a sort of, you know, either satisfy or be refunded. So let's see in 5 years' time how it goes. And if the fisheries doesn't improve, then we can think of reestablishing things as they were before. Maybe it's a very naive and point of view.
Just on that point,
last one.
Very quick.
Okay.
Thank you. It's not naive, and it has been proposed and tested in some areas, and it can work very well if you keep one area constantly closed. If the area that is being closed for 5 years, you open it, in 3 days, all the benefits are lost. So this is a good system that can benefit multiple communities if you keep a core area that is constantly closed.
Thank you, Joachim. So the last one, Ahmed, and we will finish with this.
Ouais, la toute dernière. Bonjour tout le monde, Ahmed Ardera de l'association Notre Grand Bleu. La mer Méditerranéenne, même si que c'est uni, c'est connecté, c'est fermé, c'est petit, mais on a l'impression de parler de deux mers méditerranéennes parce que les mosaïques zones, donc ça existe que dans les rives nord de la Méditerranée, et nous vivons vraiment une vraie catastrophe à l'échelle du Sud parce qu'il n'y en a pas une acceptabilité ni politique, ni par les pêcheurs, ni par la pêche, la chasse sportive, ni même par la population. Donc, réellement, s'il y en a une recommandation, c'est de renforcer des échanges, de renforcer des plaidoyers au part des politiques, des politiciens, de l'administration, surtout au sud méditerranéen, parce que ça ne sert à rien de conserver ou protéger dans une mer si petite que la Méditerranée, dans des zones et laisser faire dans d'autres zones. Donc, voilà.
Merci Ahmed pour ce très beau témoignage. On va finir pour faire une petite balance entre les participants en ligne et les participants ici en présentiel. Un dernier commentaire et on va clore la session.
Merci. Donc, j'ai un commentaire de M. Alain Blaillot qui nous dit « Les règlements des prud'hommies de pêche pourraient être d'un grand secours dans ces problématiques. Les prud'hommies viennent d'être recensées au patrimoine culturel immatériel français. » Alors, il y a un petit débat sur le chat sur le non-respect par les pêcheurs eux-mêmes de ceci, mais contrebalancé par le fait que peut-être si on leur donnait plus de moyens, ce serait mieux. Personnellement, j'aimerais rajouter un exemple parce que c'est très français la prud'homie, quoique en Espagne, il y a les cofradías, et j'ai un exemple de l'AMP de Tagomago sur les îles Baléares qui a été créé il y a quelques années, 2019 si je me souviens bien, à la demande des pêcheurs qui voulaient leur zone de non-prélèvement. Voilà un bel exemple. Merci.
Donc, pour clôturer, merci à tous nos speakers, Domenico, Pietro, Joachim, merci à Pep.